2. Today we're going to talk about Taylor Frankie Paul, when social media meets family law. I've got my guest here, Tanya Boyd, former family law paralegal and now a expert personal injury paralegal.
Yes.
Working for Hawk Law Group.
Yep, Hawk Law Group.
Awesome. How long have you been there?
Almost 4 years in October.
How is personal injury different than family law?
It's much different. The most common denominator is that you're still helping people, but you don't have to deal with all the drama. It's very different. It's night and day. It really is. And it was really like starting my life over because it was so night and day. I mean, the basic concept of litigation is still the same, but it's just different. You still have to prove things in a personal injury case just like you have to prove things in a domestic case, but it's just very different.
Well, I feel like in a personal injury case, the clients are not constantly having daily drama. There's drama that, comes up in a personal injury case, but not every single day or every holiday, every visitation exchange.
Yes. And they're not fighting with their spouse or the defendant. There's no other party to fight with. So when they're calling, it's not because they're having a dispute with the insurance company because they don't deal with them anymore. You deal with them.
Right. So I like that aspect of personal injury. I do some personal injury, not a ton, but I do a lot of family law, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. We have our signature cocktail. It is the co-parent cocktail.
The co-parent cocktail.
And the two co-parents are vodka and limoncello sparkling water.
Yes.
Correct. Cheers to our co-parent cocktail. I want to give a shout out to my cup because I just love it. And it reminds me of being a 50, how old am I? I'm 51, I think. I turned 52 this year.
You're 50-ish.
But the phrasing on it, which I got this at Temu, by the way.
Oh, nice. From China.
I forgot what I was doing, went back, got distracted, and have no idea what's going on. Is this my cup? I have to pee.
Story of my life.
It really breaks it down.
And this is why we are not allowed to be anywhere on vacation unsupervised any longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, let's talk about Taylor Frankie Paul. For the listeners and viewers who don't know, I love reality TV, especially trash TV. So, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is a reality show about these Mormon women who started, I guess, this TikTok, social media, mom talk thing where I don't really understand the purpose of it. They got on TV, they looked cute, they danced on TikTok.
Yeah.
And then made a bunch of money. And essentially were the breadwinners of their families.
Yeah.
Which in Mormon culture I think is a little odd because, I always understood it to be that the wife is, or some girlfriend is subservient to her husband.
Yeah.
And the husband was the breadwinner and the wife stayed at home and sort of lived like this trad wife lifestyle.
Right.
But this is a little different. I mean, I think they still do that because, they just film content and get brand deals out of it.
And they still, they don't drink, they don't do drugs.
Well, sometimes they drink.
I don't think I've ever seen them drink. And I was thinking about that the other day. Maybe I just missed it, but the only thing I ever see them drink are dirty sodas.
Which, by the way, when I was in Murfreesboro last week, we went to Swig, which is the dirty soda place.
Yes.
My daughters they watch Secret Lives of Mormon Wives too, or at least one of them does. And they wanted to go to the dirty soda place. So I was like, okay, it sounds disgusting, but whatever.
But it was delicious.
I didn't like it, but I mean, they did. They were like, oh, this tastes amazing. I was like, uh-huh. And also, we didn't get to go until 5 minutes before they closed. I'm sure the lady at the Swig was not happy with us.
Yeah, you're one of those people.
But it wasn't our fault. There's a lot of soccer drama that went into that. But yeah, they did drink because there was one episode, and I can't remember which season it was, they were all in a hot tub. And that's the other thing. They're all wearing bikinis, and they all have lip filler, and their boobs done. And they're
extensions.
All, extensions, makeup. I thought, this was supposed to be sort of a, humble existence as the Mormon wife, but apparently not.
Right. I thought they all had long hair and wore skirts and did whatever their husband told them to do.
Right. So they are changing the perception of Mormonism, I suppose.
They are.
But I'm not sure that other Mormons think of them as Mormon.
They're very independent girls. Let's just say that. Women.
Right. So Taylor Frankie Paul is the main. I understood her to be sort of the main character, one of the main creators of this Mom Talk group. And she goes online on TikTok, I think, and admits that as part of this Mom Talk group, they've been doing soft swinging. That's what sort of blew them up, I think.
Yeah, can we define soft swinging versus
hard
swinging?
I don't understand that either.
Yeah, I don't. Swinging is swinging, right? I don't know what soft is versus...
I took it to mean that they didn't have sex with the other person, but they did other things with the person.
Okay, that makes sense.
But then she, I guess, went outside of the rules of the swinging and ended up getting a divorce from her husband. She had 2 kids with that husband, whose name is Tate Paul, I think. Yes. And then they got this show on Hulu, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and that's part of like a lot of the first season as she's trying to get back in everybody's good graces. Because not only did she bust out herself, she told on everybody else on a TikTok live that all the other people that were involved in this swinging, which they didn't, really know she was going to do that or, give her permission to give out that private information. So all that happened. I think we're on like season 4 of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And now Taylor Frankie Paul, she had a boyfriend, Dakota, during a couple of seasons, and she ends up getting pregnant with his child, unmarried, which I also thought was kind of a no-no in the Mormon church, right?
Taylor is definitely a rebel of the Mormon world.
Right. I mean, I did not think that was something you could do with, in the Mormon culture. And so the custody battle that has ensued, she finally breaks up with him. They had a very toxic relationship, just from what you could see on the show. I mean, it was constant back and forth, breaking up, getting back together, It was just unhealthy. So she breaks up with him. She gets on The Bachelorette. She gets signed to go on The Bachelorette. She films The Bachelorette. And then when it's about to come out, this big custody battle sort of erupts. And, Dakota claims, I guess, that she was abusive towards him, physically abusive in front of the kids. She claims he's been stalking her and that he's been physically abusive. And, it's on.
Yeah. And The Bachelor is not on, is off.
Right, which that was a big disappointment for me. I was gearing up.
Sorry, The Bachelorette, not The Bachelor.
Right, but I was ready to watch that.
Me too. I'm still ready to watch it. Is it going to come out now?
I've heard that, I've seen on social media that it might come out, but I haven't, no confirmation on that. But yeah, I want to see it because if she's got this much drama with these other guys, I guarantee you there's some drama with the Bachelorette contestants.
Right.
And we really don't know anything about it.
Nothing. It's very secretive. They have put the lockdown on it, and nothing has been leaked about it at all.
And so I guess Dakota gets emergency custody, which happens a lot. And the way that works, obviously I'm not licensed in Utah, so I can't talk about what happens in Utah. But I can tell you in Georgia and in South Carolina, if there's some sort of, domestic violence incident, a lot of times, people can apply to the court to get emergency custody of the children, sometimes through what's called an ex parte motion, which means the other side doesn't even get to be in court. You just send a petition to the court, ask for ex parte relief, which means ex parte means just one party, the other party's not there, custody through that method, and then you have to have a follow-up hearing within a very short period of time where the other person gets notice of it and they get to, respond to your allegations. I can't remember if they had an emergency hearing. I think it was emergency custody. And he got a TPO against her, a protective order.
Yes.
Another method, which I'm not a huge fan of, that unless it's completely necessary. Sometimes they are, but a lot of times people will file to get a protective order to sort of circumvent filing for a divorce or filing for a modification of custody, because in a protective order, the first hearing is ex parte, and so the other person doesn't get to respond to your allegations. It's just you and whatever you're saying. And so if the judge believes it and finds it to be credible, then they issue a protective order, and then a hearing's got to be set. I believe it's within 30 days of the ex parte order. And then the other person gets to have their say. But that's 30 days, you might be without your kid.
Right, or even seeing your kid or speaking to your
Right,
kid.
I mean, no contact whatsoever sometimes.
Yeah,
So.
see, that's sometimes where I get iffy about the whole ex parte thing. But I feel like the judges here, or in my experience when I was in that field, I feel like the judges here were good about appointing a guardian or some third party that could supervise visitation, so that because I mean, I feel like the child is the one who gets hurt if they just, as a child, you're with your mom and dad every day, and then you don't get to see one of your parents for 30 days. That's traumatizing. But I feel like the judges here were good about putting some things into place or having a hearing quicker than 30 days.
Right. I mean, you could often get a hearing really fast. I mean, and I think our judges probably set aside time for those emergency hearings, because they know they're going to come up a certain amount every week, so that they can hear those and get people into court that have maybe been suspended from seeing their kids. But that's what happened to Taylor Frankie Paul, and now they're in this sort of heated custody battle. What do you think about the allegations against her?
Okay, well, full disclosure, I'm Team Taylor. I've always liked her. I've always liked her from the beginning, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I feel like no matter what she does, no matter how embarrassing it is, no matter how, I don't know, derogatory it is toward herself, she tells the truth. That's the one thing about the girl. She tells the truth. So I have a hard time, and I feel like Dakota has just, it's always like he conveniently catches the part on the recording after he has rage baited her and sent her into oblivion. And I feel like she's a battered woman. So he pushes her buttons and then he hits record. I think she's a lot of drama. I think that things are happening in front of their children that shouldn't be happening, but I don't feel like she's starting them. I feel like she's reacting to what the situation. I feel like her actions are reactions to what he's doing to her. So I'm very Team Taylor. I don't agree with everything that she's doing, and this case, though, is the epitome of family law. I mean, you've got emergency filings, you've got protective orders, you've got juvenile court, you've got now, recently, you've got defects. You have the whole, it encompasses every part of family law, of the system with this case.
But it's how a lot of what I would deem high conflict custody cases go.
Yes, it is.
You mentioned the juvenile court piece. There was a filing, I think, it's called DCFS in Utah, which is like DFACS in Georgia or DSS in South Carolina. And what they filed was asking the court to determine that the children were neglected so that the case could be moved to juvenile court, which is something that we do. But honestly, on cases where I typically do that, or I have seen that being done, it's because these people are in such need of services like therapy, supervision, psychological evaluations, but they don't have a lot of money.
Rehab,
yes. Yeah, that we send it to juvenile court because there's a lot more services that can be offered through juvenile court. But the thing I don't understand with this case, and obviously we don't have all the information on that, but she's got plenty of money. I mean, from what I can tell.
Right.
I don't know about Dakota. I don't know I think he has a job.
Well, and I'm sure he has some brand deals out of this somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been on TV on several of the seasons.
But I did notice at the last hearing, or I think it was the last hearing, it was mentioned that there was a guardian ad litem that had been appointed, and that he had not paid the guardian ad litem. So some of the work had not, like the guardian hadn't started doing what she needed to do, or he, I don't know if it's a he or she, because they hadn't been paid.
Right, so let's back up for the people that don't know, what is a guardian ad litem?
Right, so a guardian ad litem is a third party that comes in. My clients get so freaked out when they're like, guardian ad litem, am I losing custody of my kid to this person? I'm like, no, they do not take your child.
Right.
They come in, they meet with, mom, they meet with dad or whoever the parties are in the case. They meet with the child if the child, or observe the child if the child's not old enough to really talk. And then they make recommendations to the court as to, things that they think need to be done as far as drug tests, alcohol tests, therapy, psychological evaluations, custody evaluations, what they think works best as far as a schedule for visitation.
Interviewing the child.
Right, interviewing the child. Like I said, if the child can talk. I mean, this kid is 2.
Yeah, baby.
So I don't know how much he can say, but also they will observe the child with the parent to see what that, interaction and dynamic looks like.
Right.
We have guardian ad litems here in Georgia that are approved by the family law, in our circuit, by the family law executive committee, but there's really not a lot of governing of the guardian ad litems. Essentially, I mean, they don't really have like a board or a person that they answer to other than the judge. I mean, the judge that appoints them, they are like an extension of the court. And so if you're not doing your job correctly as a guardian ad litem, then the judge, I would assume, would not appoint you to any more cases or remove you from cases.
Right.
So that's sort of the check and balance for them. But they get paid by the parties. They don't get paid by the court. So it's not free and it's not cheap.
Right.
When you have a guardian come in, usually the fees are split 50-50. So one side pays half and the other side pays half. And that's what, I guess, Dakota had not paid his half.
Right, and they just pay like a retainer and they bill against that.
Right, which is not a huge retainer here. In South Carolina, they get higher retainers, which I think is necessary, especially in like high conflict cases.
Right, and I feel like if the court is appointing a guardian ad litem, then it's already high conflict, and you know that it's going to take some time. So I do feel like they should be raising their retainers here in Georgia, because I mean, it's gone like that. And even though I haven't done it for a few years, I do have a friend that just went through a divorce that had a guardian ad litem, and it was very expensive, but it was very high conflict as well. So
well, and that's the thing. I mean, every time you contact the guardian ad litem, they're just like an attorney. They don't bill at the same rate. They bill at a lower rate, but they're billing.
Well, she did a great job, though. I will say, in my friend's case, she did a great job weeding through, witnesses. And she really, I will say that this guardian did not go a lot off what people said. She went off the children, the parents. She was very involved, and I thought she did a great job. But it was very expensive. And I feel like in that situation, both of those parties paid. But had she been in a situation where somebody wasn't going to pay, I would think that she would have a bigger retainer so that she could protect herself for that, because she did a lot of work.
Well, and often what they do here is they'll petition the court, and in South Carolina, if they've expended the retainer, they'll petition the court to up the retainer and require the parties to deposit, an additional retainer fund. Well, and that's, the parties kind of drive that too, because, if you complain about every little thing to the guardian ad litem, the guardian ad litem has a duty to bill you for that, and also to investigate what you're saying.
Right.
Like, so sometimes you can drive up your own bill.
Right. And we all know there's clients that do that.
Yes. And then complain that the bill is too high. It's like, well,
well,
you have a lot of issues.
Right.
I mean,
don't call her when your kid comes home with a missing shoelace.
Right. I mean, there are some things that, a guardian should be involved in and needs to know about. And that's sometimes my issue with my clients. Hello, clients, if you're out there listening, you don't tell the things that are really important, like expeditiously, because you're trying to save money.
Right.
Like, don't do that either. You need to let the guardian, you need to let me, you need to let the guardian know.
Right.
And, it's the guardian's duty to investigate it. But, so Dakota didn't pay the guardian And so the guardian didn't do, it sounds like she didn't really start. And so without her input or the guardian's input, then the judge was kind of hamstrung about what he could do as far as expanding visitation. Although he did expand Taylor Frankie Paul's visitation because she was only getting supervised for a couple hours, I think. And then I think he expanded it to weekends, like every other weekend, kind of a standard schedule.
Right, and that's so sad to me because, I mean, I get it. I don't know her. She's not my neighbor. We're not friends. I've only seen her on Mom Talk. But I feel like she was very involved with her kids, and she wasn't some party mom that was sending her kids off and stuff.
I was always Team Taylor. I liked her on the show. I thought she was no BS. You know, I thought she was a little bit crazy. But when I saw the video, because, you know, there was a video from 2023 that had never been released. When all this started hitting, I guess when Dakota filed his protective order, that video got leaked, which I have no doubt that it came from Dakota or his roommate, who apparently is intimately involved in all this.
Or his PR person.
Right. I mean, so the video gets released, and, I mean, she's just out of control in that video. How do you defend that video?
Okay, so that, I think that's what I was saying earlier. I feel like she has all these reactions to things that he does. And, I mean, we don't know what happened before that video started. That video was very...
it does not matter to me.
And I get it. I'm not...
It doesn't matter. I don't care if he cussed her up and one side down the other. I don't care what he did to her. I don't care if he hit her. I mean, I do care, but I don't think that gives her the justification to act like a crazy person in front of her kids.
No, it doesn't. And that's why I said there's a lot of things going on in front of their kids that should not be going on in front of any child. But I do feel like God, and this is allegedly, because I don't want to, I'm not saying things about her that are untrue, but I feel like her baby's not that old. There's probably some postpartum going on. She's probably depressed. She already has PTSD from all of the other interactions between them. And, I mean, we don't know what he did to her before he turned that video on. But it was like one of those heat of the moment things. She just snapped. But what caused her to snap? I'm not justifying what she did. I'm not taking it for her because I agree. That was completely... I mean, something bad could have happened. She could have knocked that kid. She could have hit that kid in the head and...
Well, she supposedly did hit, which it's hard to see in the video, but I think they have it on TMZ website. It's all over. But the child is on the couch, which that's the other thing. The child's on the couch. Dakota and Taylor are screaming at each other. The cop is in the house. And the child, I never knew the kid was there. I mean, she was extremely quiet, and I'm like, is she asleep on the couch? Like, what? But she heard all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is just heartbreaking. And then, Taylor throws the stool or whatever, and it supposedly hit the little girl in the head. But, I mean, I'm just like, no. At some point, you have to say, you know what, my kids are here. We can argue all we want to. We can... throw hands, whatever you want to do, but not in front.
Right, let's go in the front yard and do it. That's the only thing I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. And she, like I said, it could have been serious. She could have hit that kid in the head and really bad things could have happened. She could have unalived that child on complete accident trying to throw a bar stool at him. But I feel like that was the worst thing that she has done. And I mean, it is a bad thing, but...
Well, that's the worst thing we've seen.
True. But I feel like at this point, he would have pulled it all out. Which I still don't know why that surfaced all these months later.
Well, it was timed with all this happening. I mean, it was timed with his protective order, with Bachelorette coming out. Because I think that's ultimately what got the Bachelorette canceled, was that video was leaked. And so I think he was mad that she was going on the Bachelorette. And he was jealous about it. But also, she was still messing around with him while she was about to go on the Bachelorette. So, why are you going on the Bachelorette where you're supposed to be, finding love?
I had high hopes for her.
I did too.
I
feel like you could have found a nice guy.
Right.
Or, somebody better than this dude.
Right.
He's no good.
He's no prize, for sure.
You're right, and no good for you. I definitely think it was strategically timed. And the video was old. I mean, that happened in 2023, she was charged. I believe she pled or did some kind of like pretrial intervention scenario, and she completed it and did everything she was supposed to do. So, all that was over, and her husband, ex-husband, did not file to modify their custody agreement, which I found to be interesting because they, I believe, have a 50-50 arrangement.
And I think...
And it was his child that got hit with the chair or the stool.
But I feel like they had a really good co-parenting relationship. I mean, I think you have to have a good co-parenting relationship to be able to do 50-50 custody. I don't think... I mean, I'm not saying it was perfect, but it had to be somewhat okay because I think a true 50-50 would be hard to do if you're not co-parenting with each other. Like, I just do. And that's coming from somebody who co-parented for my child's entire life, like, from the time he was born, basically. If we didn't have some kind of relationship, I mean, there are some days that I didn't like him, and I'm sure there's plenty of days that he didn't like me, but ultimately we co-parented really well, and I don't think that you could co-parent like that if you didn't have some kind of relationship. Yeah. But I do find it odd, like, that would be an eye-opener for me. Like, you could have, like I said, unalive my child if you hit the child in the head. That was a very graphic, and if I was on a jury, I would not be able to convict her of anything because I can't actually tell if the child was hit.
Yeah, you can't see it in the video.
Right.
Although I don't think she's denied that. I don't think anybody's ever denied that she got hit with a stool in the head.
Well, that's bad.
But I still think, as the father of the child that was hit, that is in that environment, I would have filed something, maybe not even a modification, like I want primary custody, but you're not going to have this guy around my children,
right? Because
you're not in a good place, and you all can't act like adults,
right,
in front of kids.
And it's a safety issue.
Right, it absolutely is. I mean, like, if you're going to date him, okay, fine, but you can date him on the times
when the
kids are at my house.
Right.
You're going to have to make that choice.
Because I don't think she was living with him at the time, right?
No, they weren't living together. I don't think they ever lived together.
And when they split up, like the last time they split up, I really, like, just from the show, like, I thought she had grown as a person. She had really addressed her mental health, and that's what it appeared. And then they're just toxic, and they're right back together. And then all this stuff comes out, and this video, he leaks this video. I mean, I'm convinced that it wasn't just someone that leaked it. I mean, he had video.
Yeah. Or her ex-husband let him have that video. Although a lot of the other Mormon Wives stars said they had never seen that video until it got leaked.
So clearly, Taylor didn't have that video. Or she would have showed her girlfriends. I would have showed my girlfriends.
I would not show that to anyone. I would take that one to the grave.
Well, I don't know. She pretty much, that's what I'm saying. She tells everything. Like, whether it's bad about her or not, she tells it all.
Which can't be a detriment, because it shows me that she just doesn't have any emotional, like, regulation. I mean, like, there's, like, being honest, and then there's, like, being crazy. Yeah, reckless, crazy.
If she was your client, you would call that reckless.
Right, and that's kind of leading into, how I want to tie this into divorce and custody cases, which are kind of like the top 5 things you could do to really screw up your custody case. And I think she's doing a lot of them.
All of them? Not a lot of them, all of them.
Right. Badmouth the other parent. That's my number one thing. Badmouthing the other parent. Because guess what? These little kids, even babies, they hear everything.
Right.
I mean, they absorb it all. I remember my kids, they wouldn't listen to me tell them to go clean their room. But by gosh, if I was talking some gossip, the ears were peaked and they were listening to every word. So you can guarantee if you're talking about, their baby daddy or their father, that they're going to hear it.
Yeah. And all the fussing and fighting.
Oh, they're hearing all that.
Yeah, and these kids, their nervous system is just...
Yeah.
erect all the time. Isn't that in the parenting plan? Isn't that one of the things, or it used to be? I don't know if they've redone it. Like, do not disparage the other parent.
Yes, there's a disparagement paragraph. If it's not in the parent, it's definitely in the South Carolina parenting plan, and I'm not sure that we have one in this Georgia one, but we definitely add that in.
Right.
You know, no disparagement clause.
Right.
But she, you know, the way that Taylor Frankie Paul is doing it is, to me, she's going online and posting TikToks and Instagrams about how she's been stalked and tortured for years by this guy, and, you know, those that, you know, associate with him. I'm like, well, isn't that literally blasting
Well,
him
the problem
online?
is, this is so much worse than a normal person because she has, 6.5 million followers on TikTok? Like,
Right.
the whole world. You're not just disparaging him to a girlfriend or to even his face at some point. You're telling 6.5 million people in the world you're talking about it.
Right.
Like, it's very public.
Well, and one thing I tell all my clients, I'm like, do not talk about this case online. Like, you know, you think you're, and I have clients all the time, they're like, oh, I got my Facebook's locked down, my Instagram's locked down, my TikTok's locked down. Nothing is locked down. Someone is out there creeping on your page that you think you're friends with. They are screenshotting it. They are screen recording it. They are taking a second phone and recording to, like, Snapchats to avoid letting you know. All those things are happening, and they happen all the time. And then, you know, people are like, you know, why? How did they get that? Well, you put it out there. So
Right.
don't put it out there. Do not talk about your case. Do not talk about the other parent. Do not talk about your case.
It's like people in a workers' comp case saying that they can't walk, and then you've got a PI for the company that goes and takes pictures of them lifting 350-pound weights in the gym. Same
Right.
thing.
Or on a personal injury case where you're trying to build up all these damages, and then they're on Facebook going to the water park, going to the roller coaster
Right.
and the amusement park, and, you know, doing heavy labor all on the Facebook. I say Facebook because I'm old, and that's what I use. But I have Instagram as well.
Instagram, it's everywhere. And Taylor Frankie Paul has the entire world watching her. She has a TV show. She has 6.5 million followers on social media. Like,
well, and, you know, she keeps talking about on social media, oh, I'm working on my mental health. I'm working on my mental health. Don't post that you're working on your mental health.
Right.
Just work on your
be
mental
silent.
health. Yeah,
Be silent.
Let it happen. Let the results of the work show themselves.
If there's one thing that you could make your clients do, what would it? Would it just be silent? Would that be your number
be
one
silent,
request?
Trust the process. Yeah, just be quiet.
It's like she's giving them the evidence. What
Yeah.
is that old saying? I think my grandmother used to say this. Don't show them your cards. She's got them flipped over on the table with a magnifying glass next to them. Here you go. Here's my cards.
Right. And then, you know, this most recent hearing, I guess she went to rehab. I don't really understand this, to be honest. She went to rehab because she changed her mental health medication. And, you know, and that was, I guess, it seems like that may have been the basis for the ex-husband to file his action.
So was it Xanax? Because when I'm thinking rehab and medicine and mental health, I'm thinking you were strung out on something and you were maybe taking Xanax. But I don't know. I didn't understand it either. I was confused either.
Well, and I noticed it was another, I guess, analyst, commentator, whatever, said, you know, that makes no sense because if it's your antidepressant or whatever, it takes, you know, 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks for that to even get in your system.
Yeah.
So why would you go to rehab right after you switched them? And then also she was supposed to stay a week and then she left within a couple of days.
But rehab to me, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe they're calling it rehab and it's more like a macadamia farm, a nut house. I don't know. Maybe it's not a rehab. Maybe it's macadamia farm. Rehab to me means I have an addiction to a drug or
sex,
right,
or
porn addiction, yeah.
or
That's what I'm
whatever.
thinking. So I'm like, okay, was she on Xanax? I don't know. Sometimes people take Xanax for anxiety, and I know that that's an addictive drug. Because when I think about your mental health medications like Zoloft or Lexapro or whatever all those things are, they are addicting to your body, and I know you have to wean yourself off of them, but it's not an addiction. It's not habit forming like a Xanax or
benzo
or a whatever the pain pills. What classification is that?
Opioid.
Opiate, yeah. I mean, we know that. So what was she on for her mental health? No, it is. All right. So, like rehab to us, we're thinking she has some sort of drug addiction or porn addiction, or an addiction.
A porn addiction.
Well, I'm just saying that's what we're saying. Like that, a rehab. We're thinking of the things that you go to rehab for, and I've never in my entire life heard of someone going to rehab for a Lexapro or a, like a Zoloft.
Right. I mean, and she said it was because sometimes people have a bad reaction to new mental health medicines, which I think is probably
that's
true.
a detox. That's not a rehab. That's a detox facility that you would need to go to.
I do suspect there's some kind of addiction going on. I felt like in the video from 2023, she was drunk, number one. And number two, her eyes were like, which made me think Adderall, cocaine, something like that. But that's just my opinion. It does not mean that it's true. And all this is allegedly, and
Right.
I don't know that for a fact. She to me exhibited, plus she was really, angry.
Yeah. She's very tiny, but she's very furious. She goes from 0 to 100 real quick.
Another thing that one of the top fives, we've got your bad mouthing the other parent, over posting on social media, which is she's definitely doing. I think she's doing both of those things. And then you've got ignoring court orders. It doesn't seem like she's done that in this case. Although I'm a little bit surprised that the judge hasn't sort of given them a warning or an order saying, don't post on social media about this case, which, sometimes you can't do that because you have a First Amendment right to free speech. But if it affects your children,
right,
I think the court can consider that,
right,
that you are making the choice to put this entire case involving your children out to the world, and that could have a negative effect on them. Because though they are young and they may not have social media right now, that does not mean that they aren't going to see it or they don't see it.
Well, it's mind-blowing to me that a judge would even need to make that order. Can we just, is it not common sense just to keep it off social media? I mean, if a video had been leaked that I threw a bar stool at my boyfriend, baby daddy, whatever you want to call him, allegedly, that I allegedly threw a bar stool at this man and hit my child, I would be in hiding. I would have my blinds closed. I would not leave the house. I would not post anything on social media. And I would be seeing my counselor 7 days a week if she would allow it. Because...
Well, and here's how I will defend her in this. I do think social media is how she makes her money.
I get it.
But I think she could be focusing on, brand deals.
Right.
Her little dancing thing. Whatever she did on TikTok before all this, do that.
Right.
Take it back to the basics.
Right.
And try and make money that way. Because just fueling and talking about this drama constantly, I don't think is doing your kids any good, and it's not doing your case any good. Another way you can really screw up your case is to use your children as messengers or spies. Boy, this one really gets my goat.
Yes.
I'm like, why are you telling your kid to do, tell the father or the mother, this is when we're going to do the custody exchange, and oh, by the way, I'm moving to, North Dakota, and tell your mom.
Right.
Or transport the child support check with the kid.
Or interrogating your child when they come back.
Yes.
Who was mom with? Who was dad with? What did y'all do this weekend? Was so-and-so around?
Yes. That's a big one. And trying to intentionally FaceTime your kid and have the kid walk around. This is a new one. Well, not new, but I feel like it comes up a lot. Have your kid walk around with either their phone or iPad on the FaceTime so that you can see what's going on in the other parent's house.
Scandalous.
And I don't know that she necessarily does that, but she did. I wanted to read her response to the part of her response to the defects allegations or DCSF. And so she goes on this, long response about how, not all the allegations that were in that DCFS petition are accurate, and how she does have a therapist and a life coach, but then she didn't like the therapist that they gave her. She wanted to use, I guess, her own therapist, which, I kind of understand. You have to click with your therapist.
Yeah, and if she's already been going to them, she has a rapport with them, and that's who she's comfortable with.
But what she did say is, I can confidently say, she added, if you were to put any of my children up on the stand, they are choosing mom and mom's house every time. And I say that with full confidence because I love my children.
Well,
what?
Right.
What? So
we're putting our kids on the stand now?
Right, we're putting our 2-year-old on the stand.
And saying choose between mom and
right.
dad.
And I can't remember. I think the oldest daughter, she's not that old. I can't remember exactly how old she is. Maybe like 10 or something like that.
Yeah, I think she is.
But you never want to put your child in a position of having to choose between the parents. Because first of all, they're not old enough to do that, especially in this case. But secondly, even when they get to that age where some states, including Georgia, at age 14, you can elect to live with one parent or another. But there are still limitations on that. The court still has to determine that it's in the best interest of the child. But you don't want to put that pressure on your kids.
So her daughter is 8. Her first son is 6. So
they're all extremely young, way too young to testify in a court of law, which
right.
Judges literally tell people, do not bring your child to court, which nothing burns me up worse than that is, you got clients, and I have clients ask me this. They're like, should I bring my son or my daughter to court? Absolutely not. Why would you ever want to expose your child to the court system?
Yeah, I remember one time we had a client that was specifically told, no, your child cannot testify. No, your child cannot come to court with you. And in her mind, that meant that her child couldn't come to the courtroom, but brought the child and wanted her to sit outside on the bench. And we were like, you need to call your sister or someone immediately to come get this child. She has no business being at the courthouse. Well, then, of course, the other side told the judge, as they should have. But, okay, so I didn't bring her in. I didn't have her testify, but I'm going to put her outside on the bench while we have our hearing inside. It amazes me the things that you have to tell people that aren't common sense.
I agree. And to me, her saying, that my kids would choose me every time, how do you know that unless you've asked them?
Right.
How do you know that they would choose you over their fathers every time and choose to live at your house? Unless you've talked to them about that.
Right.
And that makes me think, I think she has a level of immaturity.
She definitely does.
That she's got going on. And, she's got 3 kids. I think she's married pretty young, and obviously, grew up in this Mormon culture, which seems to be fairly sheltered.
Yes. When it comes to them, they don't seem as sheltered as I.
Well, they don't now, but I think that, growing up, maybe that was a little bit different. But no, you don't ask your kids that. No, you don't talk to your kids about who do you choose, because that means they're not choosing the other person, which, is sort of denying a part of themselves. I know we had a judge that is now in the Court of Appeals here that used to, tell, parties when they would come into the courtroom that, if your child thinks you hate the other person, that means you hate a part of your child.
Right.
And that is being conveyed to them.
Right.
With your hatred of the other person.
Right. And my famous last words in family law, love your children more than you hate your spouse or their other parent. Love your children more than you hate the other parent. Like, it's it's just better for your child. And I'm saying that, like, I can say this. I can 100% talk about this because I was a co-parent my child's entire life. Like,
and y'all didn't always.
We didn't. There were many days we didn't see eye to eye, honey. We needed to go out in the yard and duke it out. But I can honestly say, there was never a basketball game that we didn't sit beside each other at. There was never a parent-teacher conference that we didn't go to together. There was never anything that we did not show up together. And for a long time, people didn't know that we weren't together. I remember the first time, like, my husband, it's a lot of times his schedule didn't allow him to come to the basketball games. And I remember the first time that he quit working out of town and he was working in town, and he came to a basketball game, and people were like,
Who's that guy?
Who is that guy? Like, first of all, they're like, what is this scandal? Like, does she have a boyfriend now? And I'm like, oh, like, this is my husband. And I remember finally a mom came to me and was like, do you know how we all talked about you? Or like, what? Not talked about me bad, but they all had like a group chat after that basketball game. And like, who is that man? And then somebody was like, well, she said it was her husband. Like, people were so confused is my point. We co-parented so well that people didn't even know we weren't together for about the first 2 years of basketball. And so I can say this with 100% certainty, like, it's better for your kids. I mean, my child knew that he grew up in a 2-household home, but he never felt the effects of it because we could get into a giant argument 5 minutes before something was going down, some event for my child. But we walked in that event like we never had that argument. That's just how we were. So you have to love your kids more than you hate the other person.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, it's really hard for people, especially, I feel like Taylor Frankie Paul feels like Dakota has cheated on her multiple times, and I think he has. I mean, I think he's admitted that.
Right.
So she's so angry about that and trying to get unrejected by him. But at the same time, you just gotta override that. You're gonna be like,
she's
I'm
doing
gonna have to deal.
all the wrong things.
You're gonna have to deal with that separately, and focus on your kids. I mean, I try and tell my clients that too. I'm like, focus on your kids. Focus on your kids' happiness. Focus on making sure that they feel loved. And another thing I want to bring up, because this irritates me so much, is anxiety. So, everybody has anxiety. I have anxiety. I mean, we all have anxiety.
Right.
There's a lot going on in this world. So
my anxiety is like caffeine for me, though. I just roll with it.
Right, just keep going. But when you are constantly anxious and upset and worried about what the other parent is doing, your kids feel that too.
Right.
I mean, even if you don't say it, and my mental health, and I'm taking care of my mental health, and my nervous system is so dysregulated, yada, yada, yada. Okay, well now, I mean, I feel like you're kind of passing that on to your kid.
Right.
Now your kids are going to be like, oh, well, I'm supposed to be anxious, and I'm supposed to feel anxiety all the time.
Okay, and if I'm a judge, and I'm seeing your TikToks, and you're talking about your mental health, how bad it is all the time, that's a red flag too. Is your mental health so bad that you're not capable of caring for your children? Like, you can't.
Right. And maybe, and sometimes that happens. It's like sometimes, you don't need to be the primary parent because you've got to work on some things of your own.
Right.
And although I don't know that he's much better.
Right. But it seems that her parents are very involved, and it's not like she has a support system. Right. So if you need to take a step back and you need to, let some people help you out, it seems like she has a support system. She's not like one of those solo people that we see in a lot of cases where people, especially clients who have moved across the country and their family is in another state. She's not in that situation. She has a support group. So I feel like she needs to quit publicizing that she's having these mental health crises and take care of it. Work on that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And maybe work, as you said, sort of silently. Like, you don't have to post every issue and every, stumbling block and every feeling on social media.
Right.
For everyone to ingest.
Definitely don't be throwing chairs at anybody, even if the child wasn't there. Now she has given them the evidence. Okay, let's just say the child wasn't there. Let's take the child out of the scenario. That's what makes it bad to me. But let's take the child out of the scenario. Everything nowadays I mean, people have their phones out and they're on record, and she already knows that he's toxic and he's got to have something to use against her. Like, maybe we shouldn't throw chairs. Maybe we should just walk away and remove ourselves from the situation.
Well, and she had the cops there. Just, can you make him leave?
Right.
I'd like for him to leave.
Right. Or call one of your girlfriends and you leave for the night.
Right. I would like for him to go.
She's very much an escalator and not a de-escalator. I have noticed that in all of the scenarios. And maybe it's just her personality. I don't know. Maybe she just has a short fuse. Maybe she's got some... I feel like she had some postpartum in the beginning. Because he wasn't the picture-perfect partner when she comes out with his baby. I feel like she had some postpartum. I think even people who are completely normal and have a great relationship have postpartum. It's just a thing that happens to women. So I feel like she had a lot of factors. But now... I feel like she's able to control her mental health more, and she needs to be focused on that and calm it down. I mean, all of the things that you've talked about, like the things that you don't want your clients to do in a custody case, she's doing. And she's basically giving them their evidence. She's showing their cards.
Well, and my last don't do it is lie to the court, which I feel like this happens all the time. People do lie. They think that they're not going to get caught. They think it's not going to come up. I just tell my clients, I'm like, you know what, it is so much better just to be an open book and admit it ahead of time. Like, for instance, this is not it from any particular case, but I see this a lot. We go into court, there's allegations of drug use, there's allegations of alcohol use. So what does the judge do? Okay, I'm going to order drug tests for everybody in this group. Everybody that's around the kid, both parents, and the clients. Actually, this did happen on an opposing party, a case that I was watching where the person's like, oh, I absolutely will not test positive for anything. Well, lies. And it's easily disproven.
Right.
Like, yes, you are positive. The results.
This is not he said, she said. There's scientific proof that you're positive.
Right, and I think a lot of people think, oh, well, they've Googled it or gone to, Chat GPT University, and they're like, oh, well, a drug test, that's only going to go back a week or, a couple days.
Or they think that they can go to these little head shops and buy these things.
I have certainly heard of people using those. But, I mean, a hair follicle goes back, 60 days? Something like that?
I think it's 90 days.
And
then isn't there like a fingernail test that goes back 6 months?
The fingernail can go back 6 months, but I feel like clients and parties are onto that to a certain extent because everybody comes to court with like these bitten off, no nails, or like acrylics or gel because you can't test with gel. You got to take it off and then do it. So it's rare that you actually get a nail test.
Well, and then you have these people, and I can say this was not a case. This was my friend's husband. He was just so sure and, was very cocky and said, go ahead, tell the judge I do drugs. The next day, she found a package where he had ordered, like, this shampoo that supposedly cleans your hair. Well, guess what? He might have got a good hair wash and his hair might have smelled good, might have been shiny, but it was not free of his drugs. So he still tested positive.
So, I mean, don't lie to the court. It's better, I think, to just admit it and say, I am going to test positive because I, did, smoke marijuana, a month ago with some friends on a girls' weekend or a boys' weekend, whatever, and,
Right, but give me 60 days and let me take a test and then I can prove to myself that I'm not doing it anymore.
Or the judge may say, take a test now and then we're going to recheck you in 90 days to show that your levels are coming down or you're in the negative.
And I wanted to ask you about this because this is new since I've left the domestic world. This new PET test that they have because for a long time it was very easy that people could prove if you're doing drugs, but then you have these people that are drinking. And that was kind of going under the radar because, how do you prove that somebody's an alcoholic? How much alcohol is too much? How do you know if they're an alcoholic? Now, I heard that there's this PET test that can, I guess, measure the alcohol in your system, whether you're a reckless drinker or a social drinker.
It's supposed to measure problem drinking.
Okay.
And there's ranges. I think the cutoff is 200 nanograms per milligram or something, some measurement.
Right.
And 200 is the cutoff. And then if you're under 200, that doesn't mean you don't drink at all. That just means you're not drinking, it's not problem drinking.
Right.
Now over 200, you're starting to get into the worrisome area. If you go to the 500s, you got a problem.
Right.
I mean, it's actually, I think 300 or higher, you're in the problem zone.
Right. Okay.
You come back anything over 200, you come back as a fail or a positive.
Right.
But then, our guardians are pretty good about,
Retesting.
looking at the ranges and seeing if it goes down. Because, there's a lot of controversy over, it's not really controversy. I mean, the judges and I think courts in general accept it as a measure of problem drinking. But I think parties, tend to argue, well, I blew it out at a bachelorette party a couple weekends ago, and that's why it's so high. That's from that.
Right.
But, some people, they really blow it out of the park.
Well, and so I guess in that instance, what you're saying is, this would be a good example. You need to tell the truth. Yeah, I've been drinking heavily for the last 2 months while I've been going through this divorce. I've been, in the wine every night. It's how I calm myself down. When it comes to my kids, I will not drink a drop. I will cold turkey. I will not have another drink. And then at that point, they take another test and they see that the levels are coming down. And it's better than saying, no, I don't drink at all. And then you come back at a 300 because then you look like a liar and an alcoholic.
Right. And also, I mean, it is concerning if you fail it and then your levels don't come down. Because if you retest within 90 days and you have not been drinking, scientifically, we have a class on this from a doctor at AU. You should be negative because whatever that molecule is that they're testing for recycles out of your body within 90 days. So you should be negative after 90 days. And I mean, I think that's the big thing. First of all, they want to get a baseline. Of course, if you're really, really high, then, something's got to give. And, a lot of times you can enact or put an order in, or the judge can put an order in for SoberLink, which I think is really good. I've used it on cases before. And SoberLink is basically like a breath testing device. So during your visitation, you take those SoberLink tests, and it shows you're negative. And you have a schedule you have to test on.
So it's like the things that they put in your car when you get a DUI.
Kind of, but ignition interlock. Yeah. But it's not attached to your car. It's just a device.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that's a good way. And it gives the non-drinking, alcoholic parent, it gives them peace of mind because, they don't, I mean, most of the time, these parents don't care. I don't care what he or she is doing when they don't have our kid.
Right.
It's when they have our child.
Right. You want to make sure they're safe and not drinking and driving with your child.
Right.
I mean, there was a case in Augusta where we know the wife of, well, it wasn't during a divorce case, but there was a lady who was driving with the neighborhood children and got in an accident, and you would have never known that she was a drinker, but she was.
Very much so.
Yeah, and hurt the children. I mean, so yeah, definitely in the middle of a custody case, that would give me peace of mind if I thought someone was drinking and driving, or even drinking and not supervising them while they're in the house.
And I don't know, on Taylor Frankie Paul's case, I don't know if there's any restrictions on drugs or obviously illicit drugs, but drugs and alcohol. I don't know it hasn't seemed like it's been brought up.
No, it's almost, and I know this is terrible to say, but I'm like, well, why are they so crazy then? If there's no drugs involved and there's no drunk fighting, what is going on? Why are they so toxic?
Right, they are.
I mean, the way that they act, in my mind, you would relate that to someone who is on drugs or drinking too much. But that's really not been a thing that I've seen. So I'm like,
I do in that 2023 video. I think they were drunk.
Okay.
They seem drunk to me.
But it doesn't seem like they've been drunk the entire time. Like, that's not been the top of the allegation. So I'm like, why do they act so toxic?
Just toxicity. Sometimes people are like oil and water.
So they've basically violated all your top 5 ways not to behave during your custody case.
Correct. And what we don't want is for you to violate the top 5 ways to ruin your custody case.
I feel like both of their attorneys, not just hers or his, both of their attorneys have some Tums on hand because I feel like they've been getting some serious heartburn with these two clients. Because can you imagine representing a client who has 6.5 million followers on TikTok that is repeatedly posting videos while in the middle of a custody case?
Well, and I think also just is not good at being told what to do.
Right.
So I think she would be a hard client to control.
Correct.
And I think she would be a hard client to, rein in.
Right.
And also, I mean, he's no prize.
No.
If my client, we talked about this in the last episode, he was my family law fail of the week,
Right.
which was driving your 2-year-old to the visitation on a motorcycle. Absolutely not.
With
I might fire a client.
no safety gear, no nothing.
Well, they claimed the kid had a helmet on, but he's 2. I mean, where's the car seat? Like,
Right.
how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, is there not a law that you can't do that? I mean, there's a law
there should be.
that your child has to be in a car seat in
Right.
a moving vehicle.
If there's not, there should be.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, I love the judge on this case. Like, I have absolutely no complaints about him. He's very even keel. He doesn't get riled up. He doesn't get upset. But when he saw that, he said, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not going to be doing that. Mm-mm. No. And I mean, he's been really good. I mean, he addressed, and he said, kind of what I said about her, which is, I get that he's pushing your buttons. I have no doubt he's pushing your buttons. But you have to control the way you act around your kids.
And the thing is, it's not just one time that he's pushed her buttons and she's reacted. She goes crazy every time. And I get it. I'm not saying that it's not him that is the cause of it, but at some point you gotta take a step back.
Well, it takes 2 to tango.
And if he causes you that much crazy, don't be around him, sister. Have someone else. When it's time for his visitation, send the child with your mom or your dad or your sibling or one of your girlfriends, one of the other mom talk girls. I'm sure they would be glad to help you with your custody exchange. Just don't be around him.
Well, my mom, she used to always say, when I was fighting with my boyfriends back in high school or whatever, she'd be like, someday you're going to get too tired to argue all the time.
Right. And
although somehow I became a lawyer and part of that is arguing. But
now you get paid to argue, so hey.
Right, but I now know
Silver
exactly
lining.
what she means. I mean, it's exhausting. That kind of life is exhausting. It's exhausting for you, it's exhausting for your kids, and they don't need to see it.
And does it just make your job much more difficult when you have that type of client that just wants to argue everything? Sometimes you just gotta capitulate and let some things just be.
Well, don't sweat the small stuff.
Right.
Do not.
And I'm not discounting our kids are not the small stuff, and I understand that emotions get high when custody's involved and kids are involved. But being hot-headed is not helping your custody case. It's not winning you any points.
Mm-mm. I think courts will always pick the calmer parent.
Yeah, and I think this is one thing. I know in Georgia we have the custody factors, and the judges weigh, which parent wins this custody factor. And then, they kind of tally it up. Like this one has 10 of these factors and this one has 5. So this is the better parent. And I think, to me, in my personal experience and all the years that I did that, the biggest custody factor, I think you kind of might get extra credit for this one, is are you going to be able to co-parent with the other parent? I think that was the biggest one. I know for one of our judges that was the biggest one. And I mean, in my opinion, that's the biggest one too. I feel like you should get extra credit for that one because that is probably the umbrella over all the other factors because you need to be able to do that.
Well, you're going to have to. I mean, you made this child, so you're going to have to figure out how to co-parent with the other person. And I will say, some people I don't think it's possible to co-parent with. I mean,
and that's true. I mean, I get that, but
that's a whole other episode.
Right.
But, as much as it's humanly possible, arguing about little things, even if it involves your kids, but things that aren't going to, if they're not unsafe, if they're, not.
Like people, for instance, this is one of my pet peeves too. they're fighting because the child did not bring the outfit home on Monday that they got picked up from school and on Friday. So what? If they came home in an outfit, it might not have been your outfit, but it was an outfit. They didn't go to school naked. So, in 2 weeks when they go back to Dad's, send them back in that outfit on Friday, and maybe Dad will send them back. I could care less about an outfit. I was never one of those parents that said, oh, you can't take your stuff to your dad's house. That's not your stuff. That's that child's stuff. And wherever that child goes, if they want to take their stuff, then take their stuff. I mean, for one time, there was like a year that we would pack up a dang PlayStation and tote it back and forth. And then I guess because one of them broke at one house, and then finally, it was Christmas or something, they got a new one. So then there was 2 PlayStations again. But I was never the parent that said you can't take your stuff to your dad's house. And he was never the parent that said you can't take your stuff to your mom's house. That's your stuff. If you want to take it wherever you go, take your stuff wherever you go.
Which kind of brings me to a family law fail of the week, which was a case where mom and dad were exchanging the child, and mom felt dad was not getting the outfit back properly. I guess she felt like often things were left that she had purchased were left at dad's house. So what she decided to do then was strip the child at the exchange and make her put on old used clothes and shoes that did not fit to go to dad's house, so she would not lose an outfit.
Now, then she should lose custody. Because how dare you? That my point exactly. Like, I would never do that to my child. Well, if I had to buy outfits 10 more times, I would never do that to my child.
Well, even if you have to buy, I don't know, go to Walmart and get my kids always have play clothes, clothes that did not, you could look, you could get them dirty and it wasn't a big deal.
Right.
That you could go out and play and get muddy.
It wasn't Lululemon.
Right.
Really.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah. You can go play at those.
Right. They came from Target.
Or Walmart
Right.
or something. We had tons of those. And I mean, and I know money's tight.
I get it, and I feel like probably men in this situation, it might not even be that he does it on purpose, but they're not as OCD about something as a woman because they don't go out and do the shopping. That's generally how it is, and I get it. But I'm never going to tell my child you can't wear that outfit over there because I bought it and I want it to come home. Or I would never strip them down and say you got to change
strip
your
them
clothes.
down and put on 2 small shoes.
Yeah, that might be a modification of custody.
Right, that might be. We still want to take listener questions, so the email, if you want to send in your questions, is campaneropodcast@gmail.com. So, family law fail of this week, I think it's Taylor Frankie Paul putting that statement out and saying that her kids would choose her every single time, because it reveals to me that she's talking to her kids about who she would choose. She's publishing it to the world, and now everybody, including Dakota's attorney, her ex-husband's attorney, and the judge, is probably going to know all about it.
And coaching and interrogating your kids is a number one no-no.
That's definitely a no-no.
Family court.
That's right. And so, next time in our next episode, that kind of leads us to my tease, which is I'd like to talk about alienation, which is, we could probably do 10 episodes.
Right.
It's a very complicated subject.
Well, so to sum it up, Taylor Frankie Paul is batting 0 and 5 for your custody no-nos.
Yeah. But she seems to be creeping back in and getting more and more visitation. So
right.
I believe that it will probably end up as a 50-50 at some point, back to where they started. So all this,
right,
to just
and
go
my
back
hope for
to where
her
you
is that
started.
she gets away from him, because I feel like she was doing much better when she was not in contact with him and focuses on her kids. I wouldn't mind her getting back with her little mom talk people and doing some little TikTok dances, because it was entertaining.
Well, and that's what I said. Go back to the basics.
Right.
Quit talking about this and do that.
Right. Make some money while you're at it.
Drink a dirty soda from
Right.
Swig.
To support your kids. Make some money while you're having fun, supporting your kids and working on your mental health. And leave that man alone.
Mm-hmm. He's toxic.
Very toxic. And they are toxic together. I think they are toxic separately and toxic together. They're definitely toxic together.
Absolutely.
They're like gasoline on the fire toxic.
That's right. And I'm sure we can talk some more about Taylor Frankie Paul because I think this case is going to be going on
It is.
for a long time.
I'm still Team Taylor though. I would like to put that out there. I'm still Team Taylor. She still has a little piece of my heart.
I might get back to that point. I don't know.
Yeah, I need her to rectify that she threw the stool and allegedly hit her child, although I didn't see that. If I was on a jury, I couldn't convict her of that. But
Like I said, I don't think she denied it.
Right, but we need to rectify that, and we need to get back to the Taylor that made me Team Taylor.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all next time. It's Love and the Law.
Bye.
Bye. Cheers.